of the self-realized soul. Nivartanam, avoiding, Daivat, by the grace of the Lord, Labdhena, with what is achieved, Santosha, satisfied, Atmavit, of the self-realized soul, Charana, the feet, Archanam, worshipping. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. One should execute his prescribed duties to the best of his ability and avoid performing duties not allotted to him. One should be satisfied with as much gain as he achieves by the grace of the Lord, and one should worship the lotus feet of a spiritual master. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. In this verse, there are many important words which could be very elaborately explained, but we shall briefly discuss the important aspects of each. The final statement is Atmavich Charanacharam. Atmavit means self-realized soul or bona fide spiritual master. Unless one is self-realized and knows what his relationship with the super soul is, he cannot be a bona fide spiritual master. Here it is recommended that one should seek out a bona fide spiritual master and surrender unto him, Archanam. For by inquiring from and worshipping him, one can learn spiritual activities. The first recommendation is Swadharma Charana. Swadharma Charanam. As long as we have the material body, there are various duties prescribed to us, for us. Such duties are divided by a system of 4 social orders: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. These particular duties are mentioned in the Shastra, and particularly in Bhagavad Gita. Swadharma Charanam means that one must discharge the prescribed duties of his particular division of society faithfully and to the best of his ability. One should not accept another's duty. If one is born in a particular society or community, he should perform the prescribed duties for that particular division. If, however, one is fortunate enough to transcend the designation of birth in a particular society or community by being elevated to the standard of spiritual identity, then his swadharma or duty is solely that of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The actual duty of one who is advanced in Krishna consciousness is to serve the Lord. As long as one remains in the bodily concept of life, he may act according to the duties of social convention. But if one is elevated to the spiritual platform, he must simply serve the Supreme Lord. That is the real execution of Swadharma. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमो श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुवैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखावितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमो। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, नीलाचल निवास नित्य परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः. Thank you so much for joining this wonderful sangha as we are starting a new chapter after 27. The second verse of the 28th chapter is being discussed here. Kapiladev, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and also the son of Mother Devahuti, is sharing his instruction on the execution of devotional service. And in the last verse, Kapiladev referred to Mother Devahuti as as queen, as the grand queen, the queen of uh, Manu's daughter, wherein he is giving a lot of respect by virtue of the referring. So even if the knowledge is coming from a son to the mother, in this case, referring to elders with respect is something we learn from this verse. So in the second verse, the process of devotional service is explained in a more detailed manner. So in this Sankhya Yoga philosophy, which is Kapila Dev is famous for, is actually being explained in these verses. So in this verse, he's saying Swadharma Charanam Saktya. That means Swadharma means one's internal prescribed duty. And often, this is explained as the dharma of sugar is to give sweetness. The dharma of salt is to give saltiness. But if for some reason during error or whatever, instead of putting sugar, if you put salt, and instead of putting salt, if you put sugar, the outcome is different. And as the outcome is different, Srila Prabhupada beautifully is explaining, avoid performing duties not allotted to him. One should execute the prescribed duty to the best of his ability and avoid performing duties not allotted to him. If sugar is mistakenly used for salt, then the outcome is going to be wrong, because that performing of the duty of that inherent dharma is not being applied properly. So here we should recognize that we all should work as per the assignments given to us. Srila Prabhupada, during his time, gave certain devotees just to take care of the garden of the ISKCON temples. And all these years, 20, 30, 40 years, they've been only managing the garden. They are not poking their head in cooking, they're not poking their head in BBT or in other departments. Likewise, Kurma Das, for example, who you might have seen in New Vrindavan, he is constantly cooking, and he was just given the duty of cooking. He learned everything, and he would explain in these beautiful words about the importance of such spices, and he has internalized that, and for 30, 40 years, he is constantly cooking in various different temples and various different festivals. So one should execute the prescribed duties to the best of ability and avoid performing duties not allotted to him. So it is important for all of us to recognize what is Swadharma. What is Swadharma? Like, say, for example, if you have a body and you want to buy a shirt, you can't buy a shirt irrespective of the size of the body. The inherent body has to be defined whether it is medium or large or extra large or extra extra large. And based on that, the shirt is bought. So likewise, your inherent position, unless it is known properly and you start dwelling on things, you would all do mayhem. And that is where there are people who will be in festivals, you will see things are not assigned to them and they will be doing everything, and it is a mess most of the time because the prescribed duty is not well understood. And that is the reason why a task list in every festival is so important. In every still there might be errors, but if the prescribed duty is not well assigned, it is going to lead the problem, as Srila Prabhupada is so beautifully saying, avoid performing duties not allotted to him. And that is a very critical. So what is Swadharma? That is the real focus of this discussion. So in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is references to Kaitava Dharma. Kaitava Dharma is fruitive activities, dharma based on materially motivated fruitive activities. That is Kaitava Dharma. Right from the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned how to reject such dharma. So execute prescribed duties to the best of the abilities means we have to align ourselves with the prescribed duties, but at the same time, we should reject the Kaitava Dharma in the sense that anything which is materially motivated has to be rejected. If that is dharma prajoyita kaitavo, that means we should reject all religious activities which are materially motivated. And that rejection will come with the knowledge. And that spiritual knowledge is 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 accepted through a spiritual master, Atmavich Charanacharam. That means one who is self-realized, Atmavit. So the first and last line in this verse is very important because we have to recognize what is Swadharma and how to work around the Swadharma and how to take instruction from Atmavich Charanacharam. So there are these two beautiful lines which Kapiladev is referring in this verse is Swadharma Charanacharam Shaktya and Atmavich Charanacharam. That means how to take instructions from a spiritual master at the Charana means the feet, Archana means worshipping. So obviously the ability to take instruction from spiritual master is through the disciplic succession. Parampara, like Krishna is mentioning in Bhagavad Gita, is this knowledge is transmitted through evam parampara praptam. That means through the disciplic succession. And once the disciplic succession, you have a spiritual master. Otherwise, Srila Prabhupada is our founder Acharya. He is our spiritual master. Uh, in that sense, those who do not have a direct spiritual master and take instruction from Srila Prabhupada based on how he has led his life and how he has shared his instructions so that we execute our prescribed duties. So our prescribed duties, if you think we are not the body, most of the time that understanding is is taken. And whenever we realize that this body will still be there lying, and when the soul has left your body, that will lead us to the path that instead of really shaping a lot of ornaments around the body, we should provide cleanliness to the soul, which has been living in our body, and our body through our material desires and envy and anger and ahankar has made the soul very difficult to survive in our heart, in our body. So once that recognition or intelligence is realized, we should try to get rid of these impurities by which we can cleanse the soul, and that soul which is inherently present and which is part and parcel of Paramatma or the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be cleansed over a period of time by virtue of doing devotional service again and again and again. So the mood of doing devotional service can only focus our attention to the to a process wherein we don't deal with working for our benefit but someone else's benefit, which by which the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased. And in doing so, in building this taste or ruchi for devotional service, we gradually foster our strengthening our conviction in our swadharma, which is our prescribed duties. And once we focus our attention in the prescribed duty, what is assigned to us, we don't dwell on others. Let that aspect of the other department be handled by somebody else. And in doing so, we excel in whatever little is assigned to us. And in Krishna's landscape, nothing is little actually. Everything has a magnanimity because it is for the Supreme. And anything in dealing with the Supreme, even if there will be a prime minister or a president going around the road, and just beside where the prime minister president would be going, there would be a constable who will be really protecting the path, and he is very important at that point in time. So any service, whether it is menial, whether it is exemplified or whatever the case may be, it is important in the eyes of the Lord. In the eyes of the Lord, everything is significant, and everything, if it is put in a nice manner, in a nice planned task list oriented manner, all activities of the Lord will come out nicely, and there will be no gaps. There will be absolutely perfection in everything we do in serving the Lord. And there are many times we are in the process, we are in a growing maturity, and we may not be where we would like to, but definitely, unless there is scope for improvement, we will never grow, we die. And that is where we recognize that from these verses we take life lessons, and these verses will teach us how to do devotional service in a selfless manner, wherein we only do prescribed duties, and don't end up doing duties assigned to others. And everywhere there is a coherent, synchronous uh, growth. And that brings up to our ability that how Srila Prabhupada assigned duties to various different devotees. Some devotees were very good in carpentry. They would be assigned to do something very specific in ISKCON, and Srila Prabhupada choose them. And for years and years, still today, they're still doing carpentry for the temple. And likewise, the people who are very good in cooking, they keep doing, and there is no uh, mixing of or crossing the boundaries between the departments, and that makes the outcome come out very nicely. Because if knows what is expected of them, then they will not step into others. Most of the time, nobody knows what is assigned to the grand scheme of things, because they have never seen the task list come out for festivals. So they will try to recognize maybe that assignment doesn't have someone who is authorized to do, and they end up doing it. So in doing so, there is a mess. So in order to recognize what who is doing what, prevents this cross-functional conflicts which often happens, and that is just not in a temple setting. It applies to office, it applies to family, and so much around that, as to if they are not accepting the inherent expectations, then it becomes a lot confusing over a period of time. So in doing so, Kapiladev is mentioning uh, how to reject the things which are not uh, assigned or not motivated in a wrong way, how to reject that and stay in the confines of focused attention, in a focused attention, how to serve that. And these kind of uh, verses gives us impetus, not just in our day-to-day life, during every step of the way, as to how to lead a very focused and organized life, and where everything in a particular place is in the right area, not uh, you know cluttered all around, and where everything is organized so beautifully. Everything happens in an autopilot mood, wherein in autopilot, everybody is responsible for their own departments every step of the way. There is no crisscross. There is no, uh, you know, questioning the ego, and everything happens in a very seamless autopilot mode. And that is why that is how a devotional service should be. That means the person should acknowledge the prescription given to him in terms of the activity or duties, and accordingly, uh, if the accountability is established, they will try to excel. And when you excel in certain duty, then you grow. And this is the real reason of this Manushya Dharma, is essentially in this age, a human being has the extra knowledge to know about the soul and super soul. So that's why the human being can come in and try to uh, learn and grow. Once you learn and grow, you recognize that how devotional service, as prescribed by Srila Prabhupada, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so very important for understanding the Supreme. And gradually, by acquiring more and more knowledge, by acquiring more and more uh, clarity in that knowledge acquisition, we become better human beings over a period of time. And eventually, we have a love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Wherever there that nurturing of that growth reduced or uh, uh, has slowed down, there you'll see lot of sadness, lot of quarrels, lot of this. But if everything is dealt properly, if everybody knows the responsibility properly, it becomes a very smooth workspace, very smooth place to execute our devotional service. So the clarity in and Srila Prabhupada was very clear in his ability, and he was very transparent to his devotees, and everybody knew what is expected and everything. Even if the temples were small, it was they used to have book distribution, they used to have uh, big events, and everything was falling in place, and there was no lack of knowledge, there was no lack of clarity. And another thing, Swadharma, when we think about Swadharma, is 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 we as human beings are, are more knowledgeable enough to recognize that we are not the body, we are the soul, and that inherent position of the super soul has to be nurtured. And the way we should nurture is by taking instruction, as mentioned in the fourth line here, from the Atmavich. That means from a self realized soul who is often a spiritual master or a Shiksha Guru or Srila Prabhupada for that matter. And from there, take instructions in a way which is very clear. And and here, Srila Prabhupada tells about surrendering unto him. That means archanam. Surrendering is archanam, by inquiring and worshipping him, uh, in the sense that you fulfill his instructions. That is what is meant by worshipping him. Worshipping him is just doesn't mean you just put a photo in the altar with the Guru Parampara and that's where it ends. It is to basically follow his instructions. So if your guru has told you to do certain things here and there, so you have to follow his instruction, not with the intent to basically sort of organizationally satisfy so many things, but to fulfill his direction in a very humble way, in a way wherein you are nurturing growth of everybody, not just yourself. And then when everybody is nurtured well, then the entire community develops. And the so Swadharma Charanam is to recognize that we are inherently, we are the spirit soul. Though you can't buy a shirt without knowing the body. Likewise, we can't do devotional service unless we know that this is for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. And through doing this again and again and again, and here Srila Prabhupada talks about the four Varnashram, Dharma, the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. These four divisions in terms of the skills were done not to divide the society, it was to bring the best out of everybody. A Brahmana who is a knowledge giver, who was constantly learning and he was dissipating knowledge. Kshatriya was protecting, Vaishya was doing the business, and Shudra was serving others. And this was all done with a coherent manner. But later, that was the superiority complex or the inferiority complex was set in by the caste system, and that led to a disaster. But these four, because Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarna Maya Srishtam, that this four sections of the society is purely based on skill, not based on where you are born. For that matter, earlier it was easy for somebody to learn when he's born from a Brahminical family because he's right from the childhood he has that. But that doesn't mean crisscross was not possible. So, based on these abilities, Krishna started this. Lord Krishna started this, and based on that, these four varnas were created, and based on that, people were internalizing that, and they were exactly doing that for the purpose and for the pleasure of the Supreme. And like that, everything was done in an autopilot mode, and there was coherent, and there was peace in the society. So as for all of us, it is important for us to introspect as to what is Swadharma, and based on that, and what is our inherent dharma, what is our prescribed duty, which is essentially what Swadharma is indirectly, and then how to execute it based on the instruction of the spiritual master. And uh, there are different steps Kapila Dev is going to go in the subsequent step by step, step by step, step by step. Here, the Archanam aspect is highlighted, and there is more coming, wherein if we take this seriously, our devotional service, our strengthening of devotional service will happen, and we will become more and more focused in our sadhana. And um, for that, hearing, doing doing devotional service, hearing, reading Srila Prabhupada's books. And here we have this biggest festival coming up, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. And if we internalize the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in exercising that devotional service, it will go a long way in setting the mood of devotional service, and gradually we will become more strong in our determination to do devotional service again and again. So, so a wonderful verse to ponder on this day about what is Swadharma and how we can nurture it by doing prescribed duties properly, by taking the instruction from a self-realized soul, by worshipping or archanam, and how we can lead a very Krishna conscious life and strengthen our faith in the Supreme Personality of God, exactly like how a salt is identified to be salty, and if it is interchanged, your sarbat will taste salty, and your sabji will taste sugary. So it is very important for all of us to stay focused in recognizing Swadharma by following the principles of devotional service and following the instruction of spiritual master. And in doing so, we will do our Krishna consciousness, and will strengthen our Krishna consciousness. So with that, I'd like to end here. Thank you so much for your attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. We'd like to wish everybody a safe and Krishna conscious day ahead. We'd like to offer our prayers to the Supreme Lord by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama Rama,
Rama
Hare
Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Hare
Rama Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Shri Nrsinga, Jai Nrsinga, Jai Jai
Jai
Nrsinga, Praladesha, Jaya Padamukha Padmabhengam,
Ugram
Ugram
Vishnu,
Vishnu
Mahavishnu,
Jalantam
Sarvatom,
Sarvatomukam Nrsiнгam Bhishtanam
Narsinga Pranam Bhadram Mittam Mittam Namami.
Nrsinga Bhagwan ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki.
Jai.
Let us offer our humble obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnavas. Vanchakalpataru Sindhu Bhayavancha
Sindhu Bhavecha, Patitanam
Pavanebhayo
Bhavecha,
Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Namo
Namaha.
Namo.
वैष्णववृंद की जय।
जय।
आज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय।
की जय।
प्रभुपाद की
की
जय।
जय।
गौर प्रेमानंदे।
हरि हरि हरि
हरि
बोल।
बोल।
Thank you,
Thank you
Hemant.
everybody. Hari
Thank you,
Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Jagannath Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Parna time today is 6:20 to 10:12 a.m. Thank you. Hari Bol.
Hare
Hare Krishna.